Welcome, I'm Udoma Onyaso. Tonight, federal government announces plans to inject additional 350 billion naira into the economy to fund critical sectors. Experts describe Nigerians' current recession as self-inflicted, say the journey to economic downturn started several years ago. Federal government blames inability to rescue abducted Chibok girls on divisions and insincerity among Boko Haram members. And latest figures from the UN indicate that over 1 million people have fled southern Sudan in the wake of the country's civil war.
And on business news tonight, global rating agency Standard & Poor's lowers Nigeria's sovereign credit rating to B over failing oil prices and weak economic growth.
And on sports news tonight, prestigious Ballon d'Or award returns to France football after FIFA ends its 6-year deal with the French magazine.
And from Abuja, I'm Ibrahim Adra. Presidency orders disciplinary action against officials responsible for wrongful incision in President Muhammad Buhari's Change Begins With Me campaign launch speech.
The federal government is set to inject an additional $1.1 billion, which translates to about 350 billion naira into the economy. In addition, the government will raise $1 billion from Eurobonds by mid-December to ease the recession. This was made known today in Abuja by the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun. She adds that in addition to the initial 420 billion naira released in May, the sum is primarily meant for capital expenditure.
We are raising money. As you know, the Eurobond capital raise is on. We're about to appoint our advisor, so we'll be raising an additional $1 billion. 2 weeks ago, we approved the external borrowing plan. That was very important because if you remember when we said we would borrow, we said we would borrow the cheapest money first. We have approvals in that plan from the World Bank, from ADB, from GCA, with interest rates as low as 1.5% and tenures as long as 40 years to intervene in some specific areas, which include agriculture, education, health, rebuilding of the Northeast, and there are a lot of, and of course the railway projects that are very key to what we're doing. So there's a lot of activity going on. The issue with fiscal initiatives is that there's always a lag. There's always a time difference between when you release money and when it has an effect. And what we're trying to do now is to work on how we can shorten that lag. Some of those delays are in the procurement processes. We're working on that. We're working with the ministries to try and speed things up. Quite a lot has gone on defense. Because we needed to rebuild and retool the capability of our army, particularly to continue with the efforts in the Northeast. Interior, transport. I'm sure you've seen activity has resumed on the abandoned airport project, the 4 international airport projects. We have funded those. Agriculture, of course, has received significant funding because of the time sensitivity of agriculture and because of the fact that food price was rising and we needed to intervene. There will also be funding of about 60 billion to the social intervention program, and that's very important in terms of putting money into people's pocket.
Minister of Finance Kemi Adeosun. In the meantime, the Minister of Budget and Planning, Mr. Udoma, has been speaking on measures being taken by the government to reflate the economy in the short term. Mr. Udoma also solicits the understanding of Nigerians, saying everything is being done to ease their pain.
We need to raise additional revenues because to release more money, you need to get the money first. So we have a fiscal stimulus plan, which we have been developing over the last month or so. We intend to do a number of things. We're looking at asset sales, we're looking at concessioning, we're looking at getting advance payments from licensing rounds and all that. We are targeting to raise between 10 to 15 billion US dollars. That is what we are targeting to raise. And we've started that process. Now, and why are we looking for dollars? It's because what we need to charge this economy is actually foreign currency. It's foreign currency shortage that is really responsible for where we are today. So we have to look for the foreign currency. So we have a plan already. We have prepared a bill because we want to fast track some of these processes. We're looking at a strategy to contain the militant activity. We didn't expect it to be as prolonged as it has been, and we are still working on that. These things take a little while, and I want Nigerians to be patient. I want Nigerians to understand that we are on top of the job. We know what to do. We know the problems. We are working on it, but it takes time.
Well, the ministers have spoken, but experts believe that the challenges confronting the nation are self-inflicted. Some say the doom was spelled several years ago, and the effect is just manifesting as a recession. Today in Lagos at the Tunji Braithwaite Symposium in honor of the late legal icon with the theme Nigeria in Crisis, the imperative of a new socio-economic order, speakers from economic, political and civil society sector discussed the way out of the nation's present predicament.
Nigeria is in crisis. Yes, I guess everyone now knows that. It is no news again that the nation is in economic recession. Nigerians are speaking about the crisis, and here again, in this room, is another platform for such a discourse seeking to find solutions.
To serve our fatherland.
It is the Tunji Braithwaite Foundation Symposium in honor of the late legal icon. The focus here is Nigeria in Crisis, the imperative of a new socio-economic order.
This year's symposium.
Quality of speakers is not in short supply.
In the old Western region.
First, on the lips of most of the speakers, what exactly is the nature of the nation's crisis?
When you have 36 states and you are depending on 9 states to sustain those 36 states, the maths don't work.
Nigerian Biafra war is over. All those states we created to fight a war and win it, today they are not effective. The state structure, 36, they are not feasible, not economically feasible.
The speakers also discussed the causes of the crisis.
We live in a time of economic crisis and conflict that is self-inflicted, completely self-inflicted, a policy-induced recession.
This country is not short of ideas. We have only been unfortunate, we are short of people to implement noble ideas. We have been welded together in an unholy alliance. That is the beginning of our problem.
The way to go becomes imperative. The speakers are rather nationalistic in their submissions, caring less about political party lines.
Unless we begin to go back and invest in knowledge and knowledge-driven conversation in education, we are not yet prepared for the battle and the journey of the 21st century.
Yes, development in education will be a good way to go, but surely it will be a long road. Leadership and focus will sure help guide the nation to the promised land.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sheung Okimbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
And still on the economy, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Yakubu Dogara, has asked Nigerians to be patient and have unwavering confidence in the future of the nation's economy. He made the call in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, after a visit to the Ogun State Governor at the Government House.
I'm happy that certain steps have been taken, and I was told that just yesterday there was a retreat in the presidency about the challenges we're facing in the country. So these challenges are not novel. A lot of society in the past, civilizations have passed through these kind of challenges, but it is always men and women of those generations that will always stand up to the challenges and make sure that they solve them. So it is our collective responsibility as citizens of this nation to combat these challenges. And I thank God that there's this rallying call from the governors. I believe that the National Assembly will have a position on it. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I know that we will have our own position as soon as we reconvene for the recess.
Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara. And tackling the challenges of poor electricity supply and smuggling across the nation's borders can help ease the current economic recession. Now, that's the view of stakeholders who spoke during the 28th annual conference of the National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria, which held in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
As Nigeria struggles to come to terms with the economic recession the nation is facing, members of the National Union of Textile, Garment and Tailoring Workers of Nigeria gather in Benin City, the Edo State capital, for its annual education conference, which is aimed at x-raying the textile industry and its contribution to national development. First to speak is the national president of the union, John Adaji. He challenged the federal government to, as a matter of necessity, develop a template to revive the textile and garment industry, as doing so would lead to the creation of jobs for Nigerians.
The achievement of Buhari can only be measured by the numbers of the textile factory that's gone back. Because that is the only sector that the army of unemployed we have today can absorb. So if anything must be done tangibly about unemployment, the textile sector is the place to go.
The General Secretary of the Union, Issa Aremu, identified power and the issue of smuggling as some of the factors responsible for the death of the textile industry, and says government must address these challenges to make the sector vibrant again.
We must provide adequate electricity to run the industry. So the GENCO and the DISCOs, they have to deliver uninterrupted power supply. That's very, very important. And lastly, I think the cost of production is very high in this country. There are some of our inputs, that are valuable locally, but the charges are even so high, such as gas. And lastly, I think we must control smuggling. It's very, very important.
Governor Adams Oshomole, a former leader of the Textile and Garment Union, insists that government must first acknowledge that there is indeed a big challenge in the industry and thereafter come up with a blueprint to fix the problems.
That the change as it relates to the textile industry must be to change from importing textiles into Nigeria to producing textiles in Nigeria and exporting them abroad. That is the change we must demand, and that change is realizable because as far back as 1952, the Premier of Northern Nigeria, Sir Ahmadu Bello, recognized that we should not be exporting raw cotton lint to Europe, that we should add value. That is how Kaduna Textile was set up.
This is the 5th time that the union's annual National Education Conference is holding in Benin City since its establishment 28 years ago. And the opinion here is that results from discussions at this event would help improve the nation's economy if adopted by relevant authorities.
In part 2, after the break, more on the state of the economy and the government's exit plan. I'll be joined by an economist and the chief executive officer of UHY Maji & Co., Mr. Gabriel Idahosa. Plus, Nigerian Governors Forum declares fresh outbreak of polio in the country as a national emergency. It's all coming up in a moment. Just stay with us.